I intended to carry on the talk on Heart Sutra, but then I only have 40 minutes, so somehow I changed my topic to Introduction to Buddhism, which may be helpful to them, but it's unfair for people who already understand, but you can treat it as a review. The 18 realms, we're living within the 18 realms, and I've been reviewing this all the time, that's why I can remember them. And it's good for me to repeat it again and again so that you can remember. Repetition is very important in remembering. First question. I asked my wife to join me in meditation. She says, why? I say to gain enlightenment. She says, where are you going? I'm already there. Question, is it possible to be enlightened, not knowing it? Well, so I think the answers provided by your wife, she must have thought it out thoroughly before she gave you the answer. Maybe she researched into Google to find out some answers to philosophical questions in Zen. When she says, where are you going? I'm already there. I'm not. Well, why don't you say this? Next time when she gets angry and argue, well, you told me you're already there. How come? When he gets mad, then you say, you're already there, so you're not there yet, right? She said, why? To join the meditation, she said, why? She does not understand the objective of meditation. It's just like when I remember when I first, when I was at school or at university, I said, well, I've become a vegan, vegetarian. The response of my fellow students, the first response is, why? Because eating meat is so great, so good, so why you become a vegan? It seems strange to them. Because they don't know. Now more and more people know about it. So, is it possible to be enlightened? Yes, of course it's possible to be enlightened. What is enlightenment? Enlightenment is to understand the truth as it is. But in order to understand the truth, you have to put your mind at ease first. In other words, you have to allow your mind to be clear of all these pollutants in order to understand its purity. In order to understand the close to perfection of nature, you must not pollute your environment. If you're polluting rivers and cutting down trees and hurting animals, and you're destroying the environment. Now, if you're destroying the environment, how can the environment provide you with the purity of nature? You're destroying it. So, is it possible to be enlightened? It's for sure possible to be enlightened. But let me ask you another question. Have you cultivated enough causes to be in your path of enlightenment? If you're always doing killing, lying, sexual misconduct, drinking, egoistic, you're doing all kinds of bad deeds, you're not on your way to enlightenment. Have you made enough causes, main cause, secondary causes to lead yourself automatically into that path of enlightenment? If you have, for sure, because if there are causes, there's an effect for it, waiting for you. That I know. You must build up all these causes to that destination of enlightenment. if you want to do anything successful, you have to accumulate, you have to build up all these causes. So there's nothing that you cannot do positively. So if you are 65, 75, you're 65 years old, you are on of the age of retirement, you've always been dreaming about getting a degree, enroll yourself at university. They may relax your admission requirements. Don't think that I'm too old for it. They said I'm too old. There was a monk by the name Fa Xian. He traveled to India at the age of 68, across the Himalayas, across the desert, for 3 years to 5 years. And he reached India and he started to learn the Indian language and the Indian philosophy. When he came back, he's already 76, 77. So it's never too late. How can you say it's not possible for enlightenment? Have you have all those causes? If you want anything to be successful, you're just about 25, 26, 27. You still don't depress, just don't go into depression. Don't think negatively. You always have a lot of chances to move forward. Whatever your mind can help you to think, it will help you to lead to that success. So you want to be a musician, you like music, and you started to learn music now, and you're a 30-year-old. I have seen 45-year-olds started to learn music, and they became successful at 60. Become a master of a certain musical instrument. So that at 45 years of age, if they quit it and never got back to it, so they never become a musician. Is it possible to be enlightened not knowing it? You know. Whether you're enlightened or not, you know yourself. We don't have to tell you. You know that, oh, as compared to many years ago, I'm a different person. Maybe you're happier. You are different if you are enlightened. So that's the first question. Third question, I thought UBC had undergraduate studies in Buddhism. Has that program ended? Also, how is your eczema? I thought UBC had, UBC had undergraduate students in Buddhism, yes. They have a few courses of Buddhism. They have Professor Chen, I met him a few years ago, 2 years ago. I don't know if he's still there. They used to have Professor Ida, and he passed away. Professor Ida specialized in Madhyamaka, Karika. They used to have Professor Lopez. They used to have Professor Hervist. All those are famous international scholars. Professor Hervist translated the Lotus Sutra. And some of them are Chinese language expert. Hervist is. He learned Chinese for many, many years. When I was at University of Toronto, at my 4th year, I met a guy. He was studying PhD in something about Eastern culture. And surprisingly, he came to me one day and he talked to me in Chinese, very fluently. And I asked him, when did you learn? Just 2 years ago. 2 years ago, he took courses and he studied and learned. And after 2 years, almost like, well, have you been? I said, have you been to China and lived in China for any period of time? No, I haven't been. He just practiced on campus. 2 years, and he was able to speak the language well. But he studied every day. He really intensively studying for it. So that goes to prove, have you have enough causes to lead you to where you are? So it's just 2 years. So there's undergraduate studies in Buddhism. Unfortunately, UBC has a very restricted budget. They cancel some positions, some professorship positions, but they reopen now. I think they got donations from the whole family. So they have Professor Chan, they have other professors to start to revive it. I don't know if they have. I always have a dream of building a small little academy in here. I even created a name for it, just to find out the other day that the name was used up already by people. International Buddhist Academy. So I checked into it's been used. So how about a college, International Buddhist College? Oh, it's been used. So people have used this. So I plan to have a small little institute in here, a college in here, about 20, 30 monks, of course some laymen, and we set up a curricula studying all these different sutras. We want people to study in 3 languages: Sanskrit, Chinese, and English, of course. So I may even invite Sri Lankan monks to come here, and they specialize in studying Chinese. So when they go back to their own country, they can talk about the Mahayana Buddhism. Sri Lankan studying Chinese, 3-4 years intensive study would do. And of course studying Sanskrit. So we need to set up a curricula. You can sit in, or you can be a layman. You can enroll the course. That hopefully we can make that come true. But all these things, I really have to contribute myself towards it, and I must be free from doing other things. I must be sound enough. If I have eczema, how can I do this? I've been scratching all the time on this. But this is my karma. This is my karma. There's a true story written in autobiography of Xuanzang. Xuanzang is a monk who traveled to India about 1,000 years ago, 900 something years ago. At the age of 32, 33, he traveled to India through the Silk Road, rich India, studied in India for 17 years, studied the language, the culture, the philosophy, and brought a lot of sutras back and set up Translation Academy. And at that time, there was a monk in Lalanda Monastery by the name Silabhatra, who was teaching Yogacara school of Buddhism. You know Yogacara school of Buddhism? Consciousness only, studying detailed consciousness. And his name is Silabhatra. And he was approximately about 100 years old at that time, 103 years old at that time. And he always had sickness. I don't know what kind. It mentioned the sickness is he got boils and rashes on the skin. And it's intolerable. He once thought of committing suicide because of his suffering. At that time, he was about over 100 years old. He was thinking of suicidal attempt because he couldn't stand it. He couldn't stand his sickness, his skin sickness. And one day, he had a dream. There was a golden bodhisattva descending from the sky, and he said, Silabhatra, don't think about committing suicide. You were a king in your previous life once, and you ordered the killing of many, many people. What you are suffering now is karmic suffering. That's why you have the sickness that you have. But 3 years later, there will be a monk from the Eastern Hemisphere, from the Eastern world, and he will be coming to learn in Mount Lalanda University, and you have to teach them because he would spread the Dharma to the East in the future. He is now on his way. That is Xuanzang. And then Silabhatra asked the name of the Bodhisattva, and he said, I'm Manjushri Bodhisattva. And then the golden Bodhisattva disappeared. So when Xuanzang first arrived at Nalanda University, he requested to see, to kneel before and prostrate before the abbot of the temple, Silabhatra. And so he prostrated and said, "Where are you from?" And then Xuanzang said, "I'm from China." And so they have a short conversation. And when did you start? I started 3 years ago, traveling, and now I reached here. And then Silabhatra started to cry. Because you are the person that Manjushri Bodhisattva told me that I will be teaching. So he started to cry. He started to tell his disciple, that's the first person from China talking about. So Silabhatra taught Xuanzang all he knows about Yogacara. He concentrated in teaching Yogacara to Xuanzang for 15 months. The first time. So that's the first time, the first conveyance, the first talking of the Yogacara Bhumi Sastra for 15 months. There's a sutra, there's a sastra, Abhidhamma. There's a sastra called Yogacara Bhumi. Yogacara. You know what Yogacara means? Yogacara means in harmony. Harmony. Bhumi means state. The state of putting your mind in harmony with everything surrounding you. And it has 100 fascicles or 100 volumes. And he was able to finish teaching him in 15 months for the first time. And then he went through a second time to teach him for 9 months. So you can see, even someone so wise, so intelligent as Xuanzang, and some teachers so intelligent and wise as Silabhatra, they still have to talk 2 times on a sutra in order to understand it. So later, Xuanzang brought back this Yogacara Bhumi Sastra to China and translated into 100 volumes. And what it contains both the Mahayana and the Hinayana Buddhism. So if you say, I haven't studied Buddhism before, if someone be your mentor personally and teach you the Yogacara Bhumi Sastra, if you really have mastered it, you master almost everything about the Buddhist teaching. Because it contains also the Prajna Paramita in there. It also contains the Madhyamaka philosophy in there. It also contains the Hinayana, all the Hinayana philosophy in there. Other than just the theory, it contains also how to practice it. The samatha, the vipassana. I have this wild dream because there's no English version of this Yogacara Bhumi Sastra. I have this wild dream that one day, if we have an institute in here, we can form a committee, a group to translate that into English. That would benefit millions of people in the future. And that we still have to see whether causes would come true for this. But I believe in building up these causes. If we say, no, we're not going to do it, it's too tough, it's too hard, it's too long, you're finding all kinds of reasons not to do it, then you can't do it. If you say, I must do it, it has to be done, then you can do it. That's the difference between heaven and hell. Just a thought. What am I talking about? Getting back to this. How is your asema? I don't know, it's still there. People told me that it's very difficult to get rid of it. And I come across an acupuncturist. She said that the only way to get rid of it is to let everything come out of it. So let all the eczema is the poison inside. He said, let it come out. Don't stop it with steroid. If you steroid it, you're just stopping it. You're not taking out the bad roots. You're just stopping the branches, cutting the branches. So he said, don't apply any steroid onto it. Just let it come out. And she kept on reminding me. I said, let it come out. It's unbearable. I mean, it comes out and all over the place. So it's all over the place now. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So, next question. When I don't have a question to ask while I do, what this means, lots of questions in my mind, but when I am thinking about what to ask, then there's nothing came to my mind. Why is it like that, like this? You have a lot of questions to ask, but when you come to write it down, you don't know how to write it down. You need some training as to how to formulate your questions, how to put your questions in the right words. There's so many questions you can ask. You must know how to summarize what you've got in your mind. Maybe it's because of the training. You don't have that kind of training when you were young. Well, you think about how you can do it. Meditation teaches us to focus on our breath. How can we understand our mind and oneself through this process? Meditation contains two parts to it. One is samatha, the other is vipassana. Samatha is how to concentrate. Because if you don't concentrate, then if you cannot even concentrate, you cannot control your mind. And vipassana is insightful concentration. That means other than just concentration, not straying away, you really have to build up your wisdom. You must know how to contemplate. You have to have the wisdom element in it. Not just have the concentration element, the building up of the wisdom element in it. But the first step, of course, is just not to monkey straying away, going astray. Because our mind is like a monkey going everywhere. Now, you pull that monkey back and ask the monkey to sit still. That's the first step. In other words, your thinking is not desultory thinking, it's a concentrative thinking. Once you pull it back, you have the good concentration, then your mind is under your control. When you understand your mind is under control, how can we understand our mind? When your mind is under control, it's much more easier to understand your mind when it's out of control. By understanding your mind, that means in the first step, you must not do bad deeds. Because your mind is out of control. You lie, you steal, you commit sexual misconduct, you kill. All this is because your mind is not under your own control. You yell, you argue, you curse, because it's not under control. When it's under control, with the foundation of morality, you know what is right and what is wrong. Then you're building up all kinds of good energy in you. When you build up good energy, then you're being not affected by bad energy. That means you don't go through the suffering that much that would deter you from further enlightenment. Remember, if you have a lot of suffering, you cannot meditate, you cannot enlighten yourself. If you are sick, how can you practice? So it's very important that you build up good energy so that the bad effects would be postponed until later. So that's why we're always chanting and also asking Bodhisattvas for help to build up good energy, to not get into bad ones. If you are seriously sick, you cannot practice anymore. If you are so sick that you are facing death, then you have to go. No more enlightenment. There's a karmic force that pulls you down. So by concentration, you understand your mind by concentration, and then you do insightful meditation. What does that mean by insightful meditation? Like the satta, pana, sinen chu, the four contemplations. There's so much to talk about, but you're on your way if you can focus your mind. Learn your samatha first. Next question. Are there daily morning meditation available here at the temple? Daily morning meditation we don't have, but daily morning prayers we have. And we started at 5 o'clock. Can you come at 5 o'clock in the morning? Maybe you start sleeping up to certain TV shows at 4 o'clock. So, morning prayers is at 5. As a Buddhist, should we be mindful of how our actions affect the environment? To live a green lifestyle, of course, you should be mindful. Be mindful of our actions affecting the environment. Yes, we should. Start with yourself first. You be a vegetarian, then you're helping the environment. There's so many ways you can help the environment. Next, what is your view on some sex relationships? I met 2 gay women, and she said the Dalai Lama didn't agree with gay relationships. Any kind of relationship, whether it is between husband and wife, man and a woman, or man, woman with women, all this relationship that induces desires in the mind. That's why monks and nuns have to be celibate. They lead a celibate lifestyle. And if you are practicing meditation, if you have relationship like that, it's very difficult for a practitioner of meditation to achieve a high level once you always commit into that kind of relationship. In other words, for meditators who avoid relationship like that, it's easy for them to be successful in doing meditation than someone who's always involved in a relationship. When you're involved in a relationship, you tend to create a lot of mental affliction. Many problems may come out from the relationship too. When you're living with someone, you have a lot of concessions to make. Not just for yourself. A lot of arguments, financial arguments, relationship arguments. If you have children, you have further complications. You give birth to children, you have to nurture them, babysit them. You have to make sure that other than the job that you are taking, you also have to have a babysitter, a part-time or full-time, or you have to hurry back home to cook, look after the baby. You have children to look after. How can you practice? You have a husband or a wife to look after. How can you practice? You are just by yourself and you're already busy enough with life. If you have one extra person to live with you, even though you always be in harmony, which I really doubt if you always be in harmony, no argument, you still have to spend a lot of time with the other person. Last question. In the nature of the human ego, one that can ever be overcome across the planet. So there's no longer living in the competitive cutthroat state of reality today and up till now in recorded human history. What you mean is the nature of the ego can be overcome? Of course it can be overcome. The ego can be turned into altruistic attitude. In other words, the seventh consciousness can be purified into enlightenment. It will change. So everything is possible. Nothing stays the same. What do you choose it to be?